Welcome, welcome, welcome back, my Be Health Empowered family. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Excuse Me, Doctor. My name is Dr. Melissa Clark, and of course, please call me Dr. Mel. We are here every week to give you the information that you need to make wise health decisions for yourself, your family, and even for your community. So, thank you for joining us. The other thing we are here for is to answer your questions. So, we want to make sure that you participate fully with us, that you put your thoughts in the chat, you put your questions in the chat as we go along. And if it's your first time joining us, welcome. Please go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube and that like button if you're on Facebook. We really, really appreciate you for it. And my Be Health Empowered family, those of you who know me and know us here at Excuse Me Doctor, know that we cannot do this show if we do not have our fantastic producer, Mr. Wayne Bruce, and our co-host, Ms. Lila Mays, coming in from the West Coast and the East Coast. They are bringing all the audience participation and the man in the street, woman in the street, all of that to the studio. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey.
I don't even know what's going on
there. The building is on fire. So what's up, Lai? How you doing?
Monday is Mondaying, but here we are.
Monday. I got a tie.
I love that.
I have never worn a tie on this show. Dr.
Wow.
Mel, I'm ready. I'm ready.
You sure are. Just bringing a whole new level of formality to the proceedings.
Formal as heck. Dr. Mel
and Lila is always bringing in the cool, in control vibe with that hat. I love it.
Lila's hat game. Lila Nito, it's award season.
It's on another level. It's on another level.
It's award season, y'all. Y'all write in a Golden Globe candidate or Oscar candidate or a Grammy candidate. Lila's hats. It's got to be a hat award.
Yeah. We're gonna have to have like everybody go back through all the episodes and rank Lila's hats in terms of which ones you like the best.
Go back through Facebook, Dr. Melissa Clark on YouTube. Hit like, share, follow, as she says up front. Welcome, 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 as she says. And rank Lila's hats.
There you go. There you go.
Her whole look. I went back through episodes and her whole 2022 season of hats. Them they was fire. The whole
another level.
People gonna be on here like, I like 2021 season. I like season 1 of Lila's hat.
Episode 25.
Season 2 of Lila's hats. I don't know.
Yeah, I've been working on creating my logo with my hats and my glasses.
All right now.
What y'all think? Put it in the chat, y'all. Everybody out there. Right. Y'all, put it in where we can see it. It's broadcast on so many different platforms that, you may not be able to put it in right away, but we read everything.
Yeah,
we sure do. And speaking of past episodes, we got so much incredible positive feedback about last week's episode. Yes. What did we decide, co-host? What did we decide?
We decided to do a part 2.
Hey,
conversation.
Part 2.
Exactly. We decided to do a part 2 because actually we have so much content around helping people set goals in the new year. I know we're at the end of January, but we got 11 more months and we still have tons of topics that we can pull from to bring to you. And we're going to do that exact thing tonight.
Yeah, I'm excited. Dr. Mel.
Me too.
All right.
Lord knows I need to set some goals.
Hey, we all do.
Towards the end of 2023, I flamed out.
Well, I mean, as they say, we fall down, but we get up.
I think that need to be a song.
Exactly. I think it would be a hit. And so, yeah. And not only that, we're, as one of the guests last week talked about, it's really not just goals. It's really about TLC, right? Total lifestyle change. We talked about that on last week's episode. And it's really about how can you make small incremental changes to your lifestyle so that you can end up with a total lifestyle change to really reset, hit the reset button on your health. And we're going to cover a lot of that tonight.
Yay.
We are. I mean, towards the end of the year when family came to visit and they got me off my plan, and
did they get you off?
Man, they got me off my plan. I'm still mad. My family. Y'all know who you are. All my family, they came to stay with me.
And I'm sure many of the wonderful mental health professionals that we've had on in multiple episodes would probably say, you can't blame other people. I'm just saying. In defense of family.
Look, Michael Jackson would say, look at the man in the mirror. But he ain't
sure
here
would.
either.
Ooh.
Hold on. I'm getting a call from the past. Hold on. Hello.
Wayne Bruce.
Right. We need to go into our lineup for tonight. And we said actually what we were going to start with was setting up a healthy beauty routine. Right? We all want to put our best foot forward. Yeah, we want to setting up a healthy beauty routine. We had an incredible guest on from the Environmental Working Group, the EWG. This was and actually after we had her on, all this news broke about Black women, the chemicals we use in our hair to straighten it that have formaldehyde products in it, and how that's to uterine cancer as well as other reproductive issues. And so she actually, talked about this before all that news broke. We brought it here to you on Excuse Me Doctor. And she goes on to talk about healthy chemicals, healthy choices for makeup and how to do that. I see somebody with their hand up.
Let's go to
All right. We actually even talked about it a couple weeks ago on Excuse Me Doctor on our weekly recap. So can you explain what that study was about and what are the chemicals that they're talking about?
Yes, so this is a really important study. It was just published in August 2022. It came from the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences in North Carolina, so a really great source for this type of information. And so this specific study, it was based on what's called the sister study. So a cohort of women who had sisters that had breast cancer, but they themselves did not have breast cancer. And so it's been used to study a bunch of different chemical exposures and different health outcomes for this group. And this particular study asked these women to report their hair product use and then followed them up to see if they developed cancer. And so specifically what they found in the study is that women who reported ever having used chemical hair straightening products compared with women who had reported never having used these products had twice the rate, the risk of developing cancer, uterine cancer specifically.
Mm-hmm. So did it matter how long they had used the products for? Like you just used it once and your risk was increased, or did they see a pattern in terms of the duration of the time?
So they did look also at frequency of use, and that was a slightly less of a risk if you used it more frequently than less frequently. But really, the main finding of the study was comparing ever having used it to never having used it. And one of the chemicals that they identified as a potential problem is formaldehyde or formaldehyde releasing chemicals. So chemicals that aren't formaldehyde themselves, but can break down into formaldehyde as they stay up in products. And so formaldehyde itself is a carcinogen. It's a confirmed carcinogen. It can affect your DNA. It's in a lot of these products, especially Brazilian blowouts has been getting a lot of attention right now. And it could potentially also be an endocrine disrupting chemical, or EDC, or endocrine disruptor. And so that is a group of chemicals that can affect your endocrine system. So your endocrine system is anything that is mediated by hormones. So anything in your entire body that is regulated by hormones, which is pretty much everything, can be affected by these type of chemicals. And so that's why it's so concerning. Beyond just the uterine cancer, there are potential other effects as well.
Right. And just so people know, examples of hormones are insulin, right? That helps regulate our blood sugar, our thyroid hormones that help to regulate our metabolism, how fast we burn and produce energy. And then our sex hormones, of course, which are probably the most famous, right? Um, so, so those are testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, etc. So this is really disturbing, like you said, because hormones basically control the way that our bodies process everything. What are some other places that we might be exposed to endocrine disrupting hormones?
Sure. So there are thousands of these chemicals, the EDCs or endocrine disrupting chemicals, and unfortunately, almost as many ways to be exposed to them. Something that we at EWG specifically focus on are personal care products and consumer products in general. And
Mhm.
so I think what I like to make the distinction between is hormone disruptors or endocrine disruptors that people are purposefully taking, like medications, steroids for autoimmune disorders, birth control, things of that nature. It's overseen by a doctor. You know how much you're taking. It's purposeful, right? But when these chemicals are being added to all of these products that we're using, we don't necessarily know that they're in there. You go to a store, you think, oh, this must be safe. It's being sold in this store, and you buy it and you use it. And no one is paying attention to how much of this chemical or these chemicals you might be getting. There's nowhere to report your side effects like there would be for a medication. And so you're potentially getting exposed to all of these. One of our major products is in cosmetics and in personal care. So that's everything: lotions, shampoos, makeups. We also have a cleaning program. So home cleaners, sprays and other things that you would use to clean your home. And our food databases, so food additives, preservatives, things of that nature. So it's
Mhm.
unfortunately very widespread.
So if people wanted more information, because I know, you mentioned one particular product, but if people wanted information about where they, what sorts of products they need to stay away from, where should they go?
Sure. So we have our two main databases that I work on specifically are our Skin Deep database. So that's for anything that you would use. Excuse me for one moment.
Mhm.
That's anything that you would use as a
What
personal care product. So
right.
lotions or shampoos, conditioners, makeups, perfumes, anything of that nature.
Right.
You can look up in our database the specific either product type that you're looking for. So I want to find a shampoo, or the specific shampoo that you like to use, and
Mhm.
see what it scores in our database. And so the way that these databases work is we review the disclosure on the label, um, and look at the hazards associated with each chemical that's part of the product. And we individually evaluate each chemical and then overall evaluate the entire product. And so maybe
Right.
you're looking up a specific shampoo that you like using, but you see it rates very high in our system, and higher scores are associated with more hazardous products, and you want to replace it. You would then look for other shampoos that may be scored lower in our overall database. And that's the same for our cleaners program as well, although instead of a number scale, they use a letter scale. But either way, you're looking for either a low scoring product or a low lettered product, so A's or B's.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. That was a lot. That was
That
a
was a
lot. But
lot.
I think, yeah, but I think she dropped a lot of good knowledge in there. First of all, you know, um, the choice to go natural,
Yeah.
right? If you're a Black
Yeah.
woman, I think is becoming more and more obvious,
Yeah.
right? In terms of a health goal.
Sure.
It's not just a matter of beauty or self-esteem or anything like that. It's really boiling down to our health, right, Lai?
For sure. For sure. I know a lot of people, a lot of women who still sort of maybe don't wear their hair in afros and things like that, but are not putting chemicals in their hair to straighten it, for
Right.
sure. Yeah. Because of,
Exactly.
their class action lawsuits and all kinds of things as a result of these chemicals in hair care products. Hair care.
Right.
It's gonna
Yeah.
put a
And then
lot of Cat Williams lookalikes out of business because they ain't gonna pay.
thank you for keeping us grounded in the humorous. We appreciate that. Um, And then the other thing that she talked about was our other chemicals in our makeup, right? And places to go. She talked about going to the EWG website. EWG stands for Environmental Working Group, to find like their list of safe products, from household cleaners
Mhm.
to makeup items. They even, she didn't really talk about it, but they even have a list of healthy produce that you can buy that has less chemicals in it, versus, exposed to fewer pesticides, versus the what they call the dirty dozen, the kinds of foods and fruits that you find in the grocery store that have lots of pesticides in them. You can still eat them, but you got to clean them in, a half vinegar solution, or soak them for extra long to get some of the pesticides off. So really, really great resource if you're setting health goals for yourself in terms of trying to detox from all
Yeah.
these chemicals that we're exposed to.
Mhm.
That was an excellent episode.
Yeah, I like that. And one of the things that I do in my house is I use a delivery service for cleaning products called grove.com, and they are
Mm,
sustainable. They use all kinds of amazing products. So they're along the same lines. Their whole point is to have sustainability and more healthy choices for cleaning products and makeup, candles, all kinds of things.
yeah.
Yeah.
And luckily, people are getting more and more hip to this. So as they
Mhm.
get more and more hip, then more alternatives will pop up in terms of
Sure.
where you can go, to get some of these healthy alternatives.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Just looking in the
All right.
chat, Yvonne, just an incredible, faithful watcher of us, says, I would pay extra for safer products.
Yvonne,
Exactly.
go to grove.com. I'm not an ambassador, but they're one of them, and I really, really like them.
Yeah, and also too, I think that's a really important point, because yes, sometimes we have to pay extra for organic, but down the line, that extra is saving you money for your health, which
Yeah.
you
Right.
will otherwise spend in hospital bills and doctor visits and medications, etc.
Yeah,
So I think a little bit up front is probably better than a whole lot down the line.
indeed.
Indeed,
Yeah.
indeed, indeed.
So speaking of substitutes, right? We
Mhm.
had a couple of episodes when we talked about food alternatives and what to substitute for, when we're trying to get away from the foods that we know aren't great for our health,
Mhm.
and whether it be putting it on
Hot
weight.
links.
Yeah, right.
Whether it
Or
be hot links.
Go back
whether
and
it be
look at
hot
next week.
links,
We'll follow up that hot link, that hot
the
link
hot link
information.
episode, right? So yeah, substituting out. And then so this first clip, I think Wayne has lined up, talks about healthy fats. So
Right.
substituting, getting rid of fats that don't help you, and
Mhm.
substituting a fat that research has shown helps you incredibly. So stay tuned, see what that is.
This was cool. You heard an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well, recently they were talking about olive oil keeps the doctor away.
Yeah, so this was pretty cool too. So the American College of Cardiology found that people who consume more than half a tablespoon of olive oil a day were less likely to die from cardiovascular disease, which we just defined, cancer, dementia, and respiratory illnesses. And that if you replace things like margarine, butter, mayonnaise, dairy, fat with the equivalent amount of olive oil, it led to people in this particular study having a 34% lower risk of death from all causes. So notice I didn't put other vegetable oils in that list. So the association didn't hold true for other vegetable oils. Um, so yeah, that was really important. The other thing they found that people who had a higher olive oil consumption typically were more physically active, less likely to smoke, consumed more fruits and vegetables, but they also controlled for all those factors and still found that this was the case. So the ways that you can get in more olive oil, you could cook with it, like Wayne just said, bake with it. You can add it to your food on your bread, for example. So use olive oil instead of butter. You can use it on your salad dressing. So there are different ways that you can try to get it in.
Have you heard of people just taking it straight to the dome? Give me a
That
tablespoon of olive oil.
That's so funny because I was on the Russ Parr Morning Show this morning and they asked me that same question. They were like, "Oh, I'm glad that you mentioned there are these other ways to get it in because I was just going to go get me a spoon and just dip it in olive oil."
We taking it straight to the dome.
Straight to the dome.
Give me my olive oil straight up on the rocks. Not even on the rocks. I want it right out the bottle.
Right. Exactly. So I don't know if anybody's putting in the chat maybe, their ideas of how they use olive oil, but when I do eggs, I got to have olive oil. I love olive oil. I throw in some fresh basil, some oregano. It's just my Italian egg recipe. But yeah. That's how I get my olive oil in.
Same. My breakfast is olive oil, egg, spinach.
Wow.
Pico de gallo.
Yeah, mine is now butter substitute, but it's not olive oil. But that's the only way I cook my eggs. But in our chat, Joyo D. Spruwell says she uses MCT oil as a regular staple in her diet.
Do you put it in your coffee, Joyo?
Yeah,
or
Jocelyn. But we
how do you?
don't want to use
I know who it is. Do you put it in your coffee? I'm curious.
And while she's typing coffee? That,
wasn't that called a bullet coffee at one point?
Right, exactly. MCT stands for medium chain triglycerides, and there's supposedly also healthy fat alternatives as well. The study we talked about was mainly around olive oil, but MCT oil is also good as well.
Okay.
Right. But that show led us to a few things. I mean, just didn't lead to olive oil. That was an incredible show. But before we go to the next thing, since everybody's on now, did y'all see Lila's hat in that episode?
Listen, that was a smooth hat.
The whole thing. I mean, it wouldn't even fit in frame.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Y'all can rank that one. Y'all can rank that in the hat ranking contest. All right. So what do we have next, Wayne?
Well, in that episode, we talked about everything. We had a doctor on who was a nutritionist and he had a program about cooking, right? And
actually, Dr. Kofi Essel, right?
Dr. Kofi Essel, and he was he talked about meat substitute. So
right.
Yeah,
he's a culinary medicine physician. But yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Here we go. Levine Ledesma, can you comment on the risk or benefits processed plant-based food products, e.g. Impossible beef and stuff, the Impossible burgers? Can you comment on the risk or benefits of
Great question.
I have a great study I want to tell you about, but I probably shouldn't because of time. So maybe another day I can talk about it. But at the end of the day, processing is processing, right? Processing is going to be something that can really affect the way the body metabolizes or deals with that food. In general, you want to slow down and decrease the amount of processed foods in general. Now, what some people would say is that if you're trying to consume more plants, those foods can be considered more of transition foods, right? So those things, the sausages and the this and the that, use them as transition foods to consume more fruits and vegetables and beans and nuts and all those things. But at the end of the day, you don't want to rely on those things. You don't want to lean heavily on those things because they're heavily processed as well, right? So they're not go-to foods. You can't say, well, I'm gonna have a burger every day because I'm eating more plants now. That's not the way this works. You got to eat real, whole, rich foods. That's how the body benefits and gains from it.
Great. Okay. I know a lot of people aren't going to like to hear that episode because there's a whole lot of, processed plant-based meat fans out there. I'm not trying to say any brands, but yeah.
Yeah, we kind of talked
Yeah.
about that last week. We touched on it just a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
I'll say it again. If you are not making your own cashew cheese or whatever your cheese substitute is, your plant-based cheese substitute, that's just one that pops into my head. Then you are consuming some stuff you can't even pronounce.
Right.
Yeah, and I think, when doctors say, you want to focus on whole foods, and it's not the grocery store, is talking about, foods as close to how God made them as possible. That's really what that means, if you want to think of it that way, or if you don't believe in God, as close to as they occur in nature as possible. That's really what you want to do. So instead of drinking orange juice, you want to eat an orange. Instead of sausage, you want to eat a fresh cut of meat, right?
Yeah.
So all those things instead of a hot lick. Lala's still tore up about that. I'm sorry.
I am.
Uh, instead of a hot link, you want to go for, you know, um, a pork chop or a lean piece of chicken, or a lean piece of beef. And again, we talked a lot about, does plant-based mean that you have to cut out meat? No, we do know that vegans and vegetarians have certain health, enjoy better health in the long run. But if that's like a bridge too far for you, certainly continuing meat, but just not making it the focus of your meal, making sure that you have more plants than you do um, uh, meats or protein, meats or fish on your plate.
Yeah, and you can always ease into it. I'm sorry, Wayne, but you can ease into it like meatless Mondays and, maybe another day of the week. You don't have to go hardcore to the meatless life if
Right.
that's
Well,
uncomfortable for you.
we also get caught into this uh, having breakfast foods and having other foods that are not breakfast foods, and we can't eat the foods that are not breakfast foods
Right.
at breakfast. Like, it was tough for me to start eating salad in the morning for breakfast, right?
Mhm.
Because you don't think about that as a breakfast food, right?
Right.
Salad. I was raised on but here's how I was raised though. So early on, our grandmother cooked for us, right? We all in the same house,
Mhm.
and sometimes we would have dinner food for breakfast, what would be considered dinner food. And so we didn't have bacon. We would actually have a pork chop, as you can see. And we would actually have greens, which made you, kept you moving. We didn't understand the importance of it, but would keep you moving. Of course, you're going to have eggs. That's like the regular thing. In fact, those who know me know I had eggs all day. So
And I'm sorry, I just think about Jill Scott, loose like bowels after collard greens. I'm just sorry, but I just had to mention that since you said greens and
well, it
kept you
didn't happen
moving.
like that when I was a child. My bowels were very tight, and I could run and play all day. Didn't have to go.
Okay. But I mean, I think the importance, the key is fiber, right? Having that fiber in your diet, whether you're getting it through a salad at breakfast or, fruit with the peel on it, like eating a whole apple at breakfast, or collard greens, other kind of greens throughout the day. All those things are high fiber and they're also important. And that's one of the things about the plant-based diet, that you're getting lots of fiber when you
Mhm.
do that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
All
important.
right. All
That's
right.
important. I mean,
So,
probably cuts down on your stress levels.
right. And I think you're about to cue us up into the next clip, right?
I mean,
And
because we talk about this stuff because most of the time we've gotten into this whole society has gotten into this thing of trying to lose weight, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
We do
right. And
this.
yeah.
Go ahead.
And the thing is, if you're eating nutritiously, then the weight piece will take care of itself, but there are other things that make it more difficult to lose weight, right?
Yes.
Once your body gets to a certain set point, you could lose the weight, but it might make it easier to come back, or it'll come right back if you don't make certain lifestyle style changes. And one of them is being able to manage stress in your life, right? Which I think is what the next clip talks about, how stress relates to getting to your ideal weight. What role stress has in weight control, and
Yeah.
how does managing stress, how is that a component of weight control?
Yeah. So stress is huge. I mean, we know it's a factor for pretty much every disease. And again, we don't know what comes first, the chicken or the egg sometimes. Is it the stress that causes the disease, or is it all the factors and the imbalances happening in body that then is putting stress on the system? We don't know. We don't care.
Mhm.
We just know that we have to get to the stress. We have to treat the stress. And so I think that it was this pandemic was kind of like a perfect storm. It then created a lot of imbalance in many different organs, the lung, the digestive system, like all of these different organs that require the support to lose weight. So when you talk about stress, you're talking about cortisol, right? You're talking
Mhm.
about in most cases, you're talking about the increase of the I say the hormone that's really there to save our lives, right? Because
Yeah,
it
the
is the
fight or
fight or
flight one.
flight. That's
Yeah.
right. And as you know, it is why we still are on this planet as humans, right? And so when the stress is too high for too long, then the adrenal glands, they start to what I call peter out, right? They don't
Mhm.
produce as much, and that's adrenal fatigue. But most people start off in what we call that stage one, which is where it's excess, where the cortisol is like high, high, high. That is then going to cause the body to store fat because
Mhm.
cortisol has a significant effect, especially on blood sugar. Because as you just think you're running from the tiger, right? So the tiger
Right.
says, the tiger's like, if I'm gonna get you, so what's the body gonna be? It's gonna increase its blood sugar because it needs energy to actually run. You're either gonna run or you're gonna stand up and fight, right? And so
Right.
so you need that elevated blood sugar, you need the elevated blood pressure. You need to shut the digestive system down because it doesn't want you stopping looking for food when you're running from the tiger. It shuts the reproductive system down because it doesn't want you looking for anything else while you're running from the tiger, right? So right, so
Right.
all of these systems get shut down, and then the body just can't work effectively. And so one of those major imbalances is the digestive system,
Mhm.
the thyroid, because cortisol actually inhibits thyroid thyroid production.
Right.
Also has a significant effect on leptin, which is another hormone that controls how much we eat, whether we're going to
Mhm.
take that fork and so the key is understanding like how the body works and knowing that cortisol, it does save our life, is there to support us, but in excess
Mhm.
it can create a lot of damage, a lot
Right.
of inflammation. It's the strongest anti-inflammatory known to man. So it's there to support us in inflammatory times. But if it's elevated for too long, then it causes inflammation. And inflammation is then going to contribute to diabetes, obesity, like
It's
You know,
incredible.
yeah, I love how she broke that down.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, if I'm running from a tiger, I I'm daggone sure gonna lose some weight. Right? And I'm not gonna be looking for nothing other than the way out.
Right.
Right.
Right. But I think I think she brought up some really good points in terms of understanding the relationship between, acute stress, meaning stress in the minute when you're trying to deal with a specific issue, versus chronic stress, which we are
Right.
all subject to every day.
Mhm.
Bills, traffic, spouses,
Mhm.
children, bosses, money shortfalls, all kinds of stuff, social media. You know,
Yeah.
all these things add stress to our lives because we're exposed to them every day. And so it's going to create a chronically high level of cortisol, which is exactly what she's talking about. And so it really becomes important, especially if you are trying to lose weight or decrease any high inflammatory state in your body, which is what goes along with basically every chronic disease. You're going to want to focus on, how do I bring down cortisol in my life, right? How do I get my cortisol levels down, basically my stress levels down? And I talk often about, I like the term stressor versus stress, because a stressor is what we experience versus stress is how we respond to it. So not every stressor has to lead to stress. Think about a roller coaster ride. Some people are stressed out, some people are having a good time, some people can fall asleep, you know. So how do you move into a lane where you encounter stressors but you don't let them stress you out? There are a lot of research proven ways to do that: meditation, prayer, exercise, especially Tai Chi, yoga, volunteering actually helps to bring your stress levels down, because stress is really defined as when you think, the person thinks that the situations that you're in are greater than the resources that you have.
Yes.
And so volunteering, puts you in a mindset of, no, actually, I really do have more to spare and to share than I think, right? Um,
Yeah.
and so, all those things are ways, but the thing is, if you're exposed to chronic stressors daily, you got to do those things daily to help reset your cortisol levels.
I love
Sorry,
that though.
so I went on and
Volunteering.
on, I know, but yeah.
No.
But Mel, that was so good. I never thought, I mean, I love to give back, but I never considered that as a stressor reducer. So I think
Mhm.
that's awesome. I also want to say, y'all, do y'all see how smart Dr. Mel is? I mean, obviously she's brilliant. That's why we have the show. But there isn't a medical term that I've ever seen anyone throw out that Dr. Mel can't break down on her own. I'm sorry. I've been knowing her for some time. I'm on the show, all of that. But I am impressed by that every week. And I just have to publicly acknowledge you for that, Dr. Mel.
I mean,
Wow.
that
Wow.
that's
The check is
I
in the
mean,
mail, lie.
that's for our Dr. Mel,
Thank
man.
you.
I tell
Yes.
people, I've told people for so long uh, that she is actually like one of the smartest doctors I know.
Like,
And
really?
when she was in the emergency room, I had a chance to get to know her, meet her then. She absolutely broke things down to levels that even children could understand. So it
Yep.
made everybody else comfortable. I mean, it was just a level of comfort there. And I mean, we want to give you your flowers.
Well, thank you. Thank you. But that's what the show is really.
That's why
We got sound
that's why
effects
this
for
show
y'all for
exists.
days now. We got sound effects. But yeah, listen, that's what this show is really all about. It's really
Yeah.
about breaking things down in ways that people can understand. But also, excuse me, doctor, is really about saying to your healthcare provider, yo, look, uh, whatever you just said, you need to break it down to me so that I can understand it, so that I can act on it, and I
Right.
can be empowered when it comes to my health. So really giving you the tools to be able to get what you need out of the healthcare system. And so yeah, that's what we're all about here.
Indeed. And
Wow.
there's a book about that too, right?
There is. It's called Excuse Me Doctor.
Excuse me,
I've got
doctor.
what? Taking ownership of your health and making healthcare work for you. So
Making
yeah,
healthcare work for
Yeah.
you.
there
Let's
is.
see.
If
Do we
anybody is
have
interested in getting it, it's on Amazon, it's on
it's
drmelissaclark.com.
it's right up there
You
on the
can
screen, right up there.
you
Yep.
can get
drmelissaclark.com.
more about what we're talking about each week, and have it for yourself, so you can look it up and read, directly, and have it right
Yep.
there with you. So
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, so that was a great commercial, but let's move on because
Okay.
we got some more stuff for y'all tonight.
Yes, we
I
do.
mean, we got
Um so we ventured into the weight domain, right? And when everybody
yeah.
thinks about weight these days, they're thinking about, you know, Ozempic and Wegovy and all of that. And I know these celebrities are out here taking it left and right because I see people who have had weight issues for years just melting away all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Um, so this next episode was with Dr. Tuesday.
You're melting away and you're melting away. I ain't gonna say nothing.
Right. Right. Well, this next episode is with Dr. Tuesday Cook. She is a metabolic and bariatric surgeon. So what everybody kind of commonly knows as a weight loss surgeon. And she's talking about weight loss medication. She starts off talking about that, and then she transitions into when it's appropriate to get bariatric or weight loss surgery. So that's the next clip.
Like the semaglutides, Wegovy, Monjaro, Ozempic. Some of those things work as well. They're better.
No, some of those are diabetes drugs too that
They're
people
right.
might have
That's
heard
exactly
about
right.
on
They're
the
really
all the diabetes
yeah,
commercials on TV,
for
right?
the type 2 diabetic
Yeah.
who also has high weight. And we found that it worked pretty well for people who had high weight as well. But it has to be an understanding that you have to be on these drugs for life. These medications are for life. They're not something you're just going to take now and then stop and then, oh, look, I've lost weight. The weight regain will come. Uncontrolled type 2 diabetes will come. And so we never ever X out the fact that pharmacotherapy can be helpful, but it's for the long term for people who have, again, severe obesity. The pharmacotherapy doesn't work over the long term, especially for sustained weight loss. So when you're talking about things like losing 100 pounds to 150 pounds, that's when you want to start to think about metabolic surgery. Even people who have to lose only 50 pounds, metabolic surgery is what can help to lead to that sustained weight loss.
Yeah. So now, Anisha, I'd love to bring you back in. What results have you gotten from your weight loss surgery? And what type of weight loss surgery did you have?
So I had the gastric sleeve surgery, and the results have been amazing. Like, just as far as even just being able to tie my shoe. Now I'm able to not only walk, but I can run. I can go on roller coasters. I've gone zip lining. I've done so many different things that I have not been able to do in the past 10 to 12 years. Now, nothing's stopping me, and my quality of life is just so different now.
Right. What about, were you on medications before the surgery?
I was.
And are you still on those now?
No, nothing.
Okay.
Maybe a Tylenol here and there.
Yeah, yeah. Now you mentioned gastric sleeve. Dr. Cook, can you tell us maybe 3 of the more popular procedures that there are available to have?
Absolutely. So one operation is called actually, I guess I'll start with the most popular. The most popular operation that we do in the United States now, and it's anywhere from 60 to probably 60 to 80% of the operations that we do now are the vertical sleeve gastrectomy. We do it laparoscopically, meaning we use long, thin instruments to do the operation. So you end up having very small incisions. And so what that does is it decreases the pain that you have perioperatively. You can leave the hospital the same day, the next day. Activities of daily living you can return to easily. You don't have a lot of adhesions in your abdomen, and so we do all of our operations laparoscopically. That's kind of generally what we do in the United States now. One operation, again, the one we do most frequently, is a vertical sleeve gastrectomy, and that's where we remove probably about 80% of the stomach. And to do that, we take about a bit of the fundus, the body, and the antrum. And so when we do that, we remove what are called chief cells, which are on the gastric antrum and the body and fundus of the stomach. We make a long, slender pouch that looks like a sleeve. And so it's called a sleeve gastrectomy. In doing that, we reduce the ghrelin hormone. We make changes to the gastrointestinal peptide, GLP-1, a glucagon-like peptide. We make changes to all, I mean, we're going to go through all of them because people
So
get bored, but
a bunch of different
I'm
hormones.
excited about it. So we do
Yeah,
hormonal changes.
a bunch of different
surgery.
hormones that
Right, and
affect
so
your
people have
metabolism.
decreased
Yeah.
portion sizes. They're not as hungry. They have early satiety, right? They make better choices because they're not as hungry. And then with the small portion size, decreased hunger, better satiety, and then the metabolic changes, they have the effect of the weight loss. So that's one. Another one is the room gastric bypass, where we make a pouch from the stomach about the size of an egg, about a 30cc pouch. And then we reroute the small bowel to bring up a loop to that pouch, and we hook the bowel back together lower down. And in doing that, the patient again has good portion control, because remember I said that gastric pouch is about the size of an egg. They have less ghrelin, maybe not as much loss as with the sleeve, but still less ghrelin, but they have other metabolic changes that help with, again, weight loss and improvement of the insulin growth factor and insulin resistance. And so we have great improvement of resolution or remission of type 2 diabetes. People come off of their insulin pumps. They come off of their oral diabetes medications, their high blood pressure medications, etc. And that happens both with the sleeve and the bypass, but the data has shown that at 5 years, there's a tiny bit better improvement of the long-term remission of type 2 diabetes with the bypass. But I mean, the sleeve is going to bypass a run for its money because it does really good changes as well. And then
I think one of the famous, I just want to mention one of the famous people who had the gastric bypass is Al Roker, and we see how much weight he's lost and how he's kept it off over the years. But sorry, go ahead. You have a third one. Yeah.
No, it's great. You know, there's so many people that have that, you know, may or may not talk about it, but weight loss, it's a big deal in our community. And, you know, only 1% of the population that could access weight loss surgery even seeks it or seeks to talk about it. And the reason is there's so much weight bias and stigma. People don't want to talk about it with their primary care docs. Or, you know, they come to me, they cry, you know, because they want some help. They didn't know their diabetes could be controlled. They didn't know their hypertension could be controlled. Their high cholesterol could go away. But they're just scared to seek it, or they don't even know.
Yeah.
Right. And then, of course, there's the duodenal switch. And I mentioned that one a little bit more than I mentioned the band, because only about 6 or 7% of bariatric surgeons in the US are continuing to do adjustable gastric band. It's still something that's done. People still have it. You know, they still have to be managed.
That's also called the lap band. I think people know it as a lap band.
Well, lap band is one kind. The adjustable gastric band, there were several kinds. And what it does is we put a silicone ring around the top part of the stomach and a port. I'm not sure what my port is, but there's a subcutaneous port we put in that we access it with a needle that doesn't leave a hole, and it makes it a little bit tighter or looser depending on what the patient needs. And so that it's not a bad operation. It's just there has been some weight recidivism increase with the adjustable gastric band. The duodenal switch is another operation that is not done by everyone and everywhere, but it's essentially a combination of the sleeve as well as rerouting of the small bowel to have the small bowel joint a little bit lower down and leave a common channel, or the part where the digestive enzymes meet the food, and you get absorption of the nutrients, vitamins, minerals, calories through that shorter portion of bowel.
Great. So, you know, I don't want to make.
Wow.
That was a lot. That was a lot. But I just want to say, she mentioned a ton of different hormones, ghrelin and insulin-like growth. I just want people to know that, you know, weight loss and weight maintenance is complicated because there are so many different hormones involved in it. What she's talking about is how when you change the anatomy of the stomach through surgery, it decreases the level of some of those hormones that really end up leading you to make choices that make you gain weight and reset your metabolism to allow you to lose weight. And I love her passion, right? Because she's passionate about getting this information to people who need to hear it. I was really struck by the only 1% of people who are eligible for gastric bypass or for weight loss surgery, metabolic surgery, actually go for it or are actually even exposed to it.
Why do you think that, Dr. Mel?
I think it's a couple things. Well, one she said is reluctance to talk about it with your doctor, and the doctor not bringing it up because they're not maybe familiar with that as a procedure and what the criteria are for referring people for it. Insurance issues, probably a really huge one. Fear of surgery.
Let me stop you there, because that young lady went to Vegas. She lives in another state. She lives in one of the southern states.
Miss Anissa, right?
Yeah. Anissa
Mhm.
Tanksley, right? You
Yep.
can catch her on IG, but it followed her entire weight loss journey. She had a lot of weight on her.
Morbidly obese, which is one of the qualifications
Right.
for
But
metabolic surgery.
I don't think her insurance was going to cover. And so she
Mhm.
went to a place in in uh in Las Vegas that did these surgeries and just had it done herself. And it was a lower cost than any of the surgeons we had talked with since. Was like, I've never heard of it. So I don't know, and had it done for herself. She saved up money,
Right.
had it done.
Right. And I mean, if you go that route, I would just make sure, that you check about the qualifications of the surgeon, check maybe with the American Board of Surgeons or American Board of Bariatric Surgeons. Um, you know, um, just make sure that, ask about how many surgeries they've done, really check out their qualifications if you're thinking about going that route outside of an insurance company and paying cash. The good thing is they've actually relaxed in the past 10 years a lot of the kind of more stringent criteria. They used to make you get a psychological exam and other things before you got bariatric surgery. But in that episode, Dr. Cook talked about and Ms. Tanksley talked about how the criteria for selection by insurance companies or approval for insurance companies has changed and sort of opened the doors more to allow more people to get it. So just something to be aware of if weight loss is one of your goals this year and you're above uh, BMI of 35 or 40, that's one option for you. They talked about weight loss medications, which are originally diabetes medications, but understanding that if you go down that route, it's a lifelong commitment. You kind of have to take them forever or else the weight will come back. And then, of course, we talked earlier about making the dietary changes, right? And the dietary swaps that will decrease inflammation in your body and help lead to weight loss and better health.
So, Dr. Mel, I'm sorry to just take up this time. weight weight loss is obviously with me. As y'all can see, I'm no stranger to weight loss or weight gain. but Dr. Mel, so do you think taking the weight loss drugs, everybody's taking the injections now, like once or twice a week or once every 2 weeks. You'll have to stay on that the rest of your life, even if you learn to eat properly while you're on it?
So I don't know that the jury is in on how those two things toggle together. But yes, if you make the necessary lifestyle changes and exercise, the idea is if you can lose and keep off 10% of your body weight, that will have tremendous health effects for you, positive health effects for you down the line. It's just that what we're seeing is people are using it for weight loss and, for short-term weight loss, maybe for a goal to get, in that dress or, get to that wedding. And then they don't really make the necessary changes because they're relying on the medication. And then as soon as they stop the medication, the weight comes back. So it's really the intent that you go into it with and understanding that it's a commitment either way. If you're going to really want to keep the weight off, you really have to commit to the diet, to the nutrition and the lifestyle changes. And if you don't, then you're committing to the medicine. If your goal is to keep that weight off. Yeah.
All right.
So, we're wrapping up. I just looked up. We still got 3 more things to talk about, but I'm thinking, Wayne, can we shoot to, if you do have a new diagnosis of a chronic disease and you're trying to
Right.
figure out, is 2024, you really want to get on top of it, what are some of the first steps that you should take, whether it's for you or for a loved one? We discussed that in this next clip. And I think this really about, it was in episode where we talked about Alzheimer's as a new diagnosis, but I think the principles of addressing a new health challenge, a new chronic disease diagnosis, kind of hold true across the board.
Yeah, this was about Alzheimer's. If we run a little over, stay on the Dr. MEL Facebook page, stay on the Dr. MEL YouTube page where we're broadcasting live. Stay where you are. But this is very important. Here we go. Let's say a loved one has just been diagnosed with stage 1 Alzheimer's. What would be the next steps? What would be the 3 best first steps?
Okay, so that's a good one too. So the diagnosis now has been made. You heard Linda, and I was off screen, but I was nodding my head to everything she was saying. Everything she was saying. Now is the time to first look around and think about your team. Who's on your team now? And we all look to family, of course. And I always tell my people, we love our family, but family may not be your team. Okay? They may not be your team.
Amen.
And that means you need to really, and I say this to people, listen, no disrespect. It's just that there are so many other resources that your family may not know, that a social worker knows, an organization knows, and you need to start putting your team together who may be called up to give support at a certain time. Okay? And I say this even before we talk about medication, because as a physician, I'm thinking about that. What medicine should we start? I'm looking for the team. And sometimes my people come in with a daughter. Most of the time it's a daughter. Sometimes they come in alone, and I ask, who's going to be there to support you taking these meds or bringing you to a visit or getting a follow-up? And so I'm thinking about a team. So that's the thing. You want to get your team together. And here's the other thing I have to say this, Dr. MEL, to everybody. You cannot bring people across the finish line, okay? Either they're on or they're off. And right now, it's a moment in time. Right now, they're not able to help. Doesn't mean they're gone. It's just that right now, they are not on the team, okay? Right. And you may find them later, but right now they're not. And stop wasting your time trying to put everybody together. And that goes to all the family members who are trying to round up their siblings to get together, and it's not working. So once we have the team, then we start talking medicines. What would be the best medicine given the profile of your loved one, the medical conditions that mother, father, sister has? What are the side effects of the drugs related to their medical conditions? And the one big thing that I always talk about is heart conditions. If somebody has heart issues, they're on blood thinners, medicines where they're an AFib, or they may be having an ongoing cancer, or we think about what medicines to try. And sometimes we will not suggest an aggressive medicine because we're worried about the underlying medical condition. Okay. And then the last thing is, again, going back to what Linda said about social work, how is the environment? What is the environment like now? Is this environment supportive of the person? Nobody wants to move out of their house. I have yet to meet anyone who wants to get out. They all want to stay. But I always say, but is your environment supporting you to live your best life? Exactly. And if it's not, how can we make that change? And if we can't, what should we be thinking of? And that's where the discussion goes. And that's where the social workers can really step in and say, here are some options.
That is so excellent. And if I could just add about, wow, man, she was breaking it down. And, that episode was hard for me, because I have a loved one who has Alzheimer's, and everything she said was true. But I was saying that, it's generalizable. What she said was actually generalizable in other situations. Know your team. If you have diabetes, if you have cancer and it's a new diagnosis, know who's going to be on your team, because you really don't want to try to do these things alone. You want to buddy up with somebody maybe who has diabetes for support, or join a diabetes support group. You can get recipes, you can get suggestions from them. And then even outside the healthcare team, you're not going to just have a doctor. You might have a nurse care manager. You might have a nutritionist.
Right.
All these people are really important to lean on to really get where you want to go. So she made some really excellent points. And the environment, right? Is the environment supporting you? She was talking about, the house that you live in, and if you have a diagnosis of Alzheimer's, is it the safest place for you to stay? But that's true of anything. Is the environment, the people that you're around, the places that
Yeah.
you go, is it supporting your wellness and well-being? I know a lot of people who are on an addiction journey find that they have to change the environment they're in to really get to the health results that they want, because certain triggers from their old environment remind them of their need for whatever substance that they're addicted to. So, so much of what she's saying doesn't just apply to a new Alzheimer's diagnosis. It could apply to a variety of chronic diseases, and getting your team together, getting your environment straight, etc.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Good stuff.
That's good stuff. Lila, you
Yeah.
got anything else?
No, that's it.
good.
I'm just taking it all in, even though I'm part of the show. Yeah, that's good stuff.
All right. Well, wow, this hour flew. It
Good.
flew by. I mean,
It
we thought we didn't have enough to talk about, right?
Right.
But yeah, I hope again that this part 2 of 2024 health goals and giving you, information from prior episodes that might help you get your TLC, your total lifestyle change, moving in the right direction. I hope it was helpful. Thank you, my Be Health Empowered family, for tuning in and all your great comments and in the chat. And of course, thank you to Miss Lila Mays and the Hat family and Mr. Wayne Bruce. Until we see you, be wise, be well, and be health empowered.